harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zimet.
Hello and welcome to the Beverly Zimet Show, where being the best you can be has just gotten easier. Today my guest is, but let me say this right, Chonta Hayes? Did I get that?
Chonta Hayes, yes.
Chonta Hayes. Okay, Chonta. Where are you calling in from?
I'm actually in Tampa, Florida, and it's nice and sunny here, even in the middle of April.
I talked to my brother. He's down there out of Orlando. He said it was 95 a few days ago, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy."
Well, it's changed because it was nice and sunny yesterday. The day before, though, it got cooler in the 60s, the high 60s, and I thought, wow, what happened? But hey, things are changing just like the times are changing right now.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of weather. So yes.
Yeah, it was pretty sunny here in New Mexico. I'm outside of Farmington. That's where I got quarantined, right?
Okay.
And we've had our days too where it's been like really cold and then it gets really warm. But you know, hey, it's springtime, so you can't change the weather, so you just float with it, right?
Go with the flow.
So Chonta, how did you get involved in the work that you're doing? You know, the thing that fascinated me the most about, you know, how we connected was for financial personalities. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? How did you get started in that? Is it your own creation? Was it a spin-off of something? You know, tell our audience what that's all about.
Well, it is my own creation. I developed it not too long ago. My background is a little odd. See, I grew up in a household where I had both my parents were teachers. And we all know teachers don't make a lot of money, right?
Exactly.
So it was that financial struggle that went along with it. But I also have a brother that's 2 years behind me. And so when I got ready to go to college, I recognized that there was going to be some struggle there unless I figured out systems that were going to assist us. So I ended up graduating from Georgia Tech in 3 years with an electrical engineering degree. And I know that's really strange. Now, I did it in 3 years, not for some claim to fame, but I did it because my brother was 2 years behind me. And I figured out that college tuition goes up every year. And so if I saved that 1 year, I effectively saved whatever that increase was for my family. Plus, we were only in school together for 1 year. So that started my process of looking at the systems of the world and how financially I could then achieve and profit and be in a better position. So I started off that way. As I went through, you know, I worked in corporate America 4 years in engineering, had an opportunity to do that with a computer engineering minor and everything else. But then my middle daughter got sick in school. She had seizures with the onset of illness, and her teacher came to school with pneumonia.
Oh, and
yeah, so about a year and a half after all of that struggle, I ended up having to come out of corporate America. So we went from 2 incomes down to 1. And so I understand that as well. And she passed away 15 years ago now. In September, it'll be 15 years. And so I've learned how to start over and start ministries and things of that sort. But when I came home, I started working at the church. And I got a theology degree prior to her passing. And so I've been teaching theology for the last 15 years. Biblical finance happened to be one of those areas that I taught consistently. But what I noticed was that many did not put feet to their faith, as I say. They get the theology and the theory, but they wouldn't do the practical applications. So that then led me to come up with worksheets and try to get something together so that those who were in my class, my students, would be able to walk it out from what they've learned and really prosper, have a secure financial future, change their entire economic footprint for not only their family, but for their legacy going forward. Well, within the last year, I looked at it and I said, you know, people have a different God-given personalities. We don't all handle money the same. We have our own relationship with money, right?
Right.
Good or bad, but we have our own relationship with money. And in so doing, that's when these biblical financial personalities came about. So what I did was I took the scriptural lessons that I knew of, and balanced them with how we act to come up with at least ways that we could then remove what I call the struggle from money management, because it's all about money management right now. You can't move on into investing or retirement until you learn how to manage your money first. And so that's where I wanted to start. And I've been blessed to be able to bring that forth to, different groups, just to let them know. And it does help in helping you be your best you, because now you know how you handle things. And I give you a way of putting it into a
Right.
process so that you, based on your personality, can then achieve, the best for yourself. You don't struggle then with money. And as we start going through, because I definitely want to give you guys that information and give your audience that information, you'll see how it kind of works together, and you say, well, wow, I didn't realize that. And
Right.
yes, yeah. And so my goal is always to at least give at least one takeaway of one thing that you can kind of change now, and then feel some relief, because once you start feeling relief, you'll then be more inclined to take that next step and do a better job as well.
Right.
So that's how I came into it.
Oh, well, that's a fascinating story. Fascinating story, and gosh, it's losing a child and all of this too. Wow, my heart goes out to you. That can be a rough time, but again, if you utilize that to go forward, that can be a driving force, and that's a beautiful thing because it kind of adds to that legacy, right?
Right.
And to have that thought too, going back, to school, it's like, okay, so if I get done in 3 years, then that's 1 year my brother can use to make sure that he completes, is fascinating. And then you also made a comment about doing, right? So you were finding, that you were delivering all this information, but they weren't walking it. They weren't doing anything with it. So knowledge is totally useless unless you put it into action, right? And
Exactly.
so figuring out ways to do that, that's a key. And that's great. And then you said the four personalities, in
Mhm.
this biblical form and all these different things. There's so many personality tests out there now, right? There's like four major personalities that we're all looking at. Are you this color, or are you this? They have an emotion, energy, or something. Are you that? What group do you fit in? In your personality. So coming from this biblical standpoint, it's like, wow. I grew up in a parochial school, so I've been through that. We had religion class every single day of my life, 12 years, right? And so, but I do not recall ever hearing anything about the financial things in the Bible. Okay, interesting, very
From that,
interesting.
we don't. It's one of those subjects that I didn't realize was kind of taboo.
Yeah,
It was,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
there's faith over fear, but not faith in finances. You don't typically put those two together,
No,
you
you
know.
don't.
But it's important because not only do we want to have a secure future in this life to live the abundant life, but we also want to be able to make an impact. And
Right.
we can't do that if we don't have our finances together. We can't.
No, that's the three major things out there, right? Is wealth, health, and relationships, right? Not necessarily in that order, but they all combine with each other, and they all impact each other. And we look at what's going on in the world today, and
Mm.
people's biggest fear is, am I going to have enough money to put food on the table, right? So how business is being done is completely different than it was just a few weeks ago. It didn't kind of evolve into it. It was like boom, and it was there, right?
Exactly.
And so coming out of this, it's going to be different. So some businesses are going to thrive, and other business not so much, right? And so we have to all take a good look at where are we in our finances and what are we doing. And right now, with a little bit of savings, if we are lucky enough to have savings, what is that
Mhm.
little jingle that's in our pocket going to do to make a security for us to continue once we move out of this, because we all know, unless we're in denial, that coming out of this is not going to look the same as it did when we came into it.
No, Beverly, I tell people, one of the statistics says that 73% of Americans die in poverty. That was
Yes.
before this pandemic. 80% of Americans were already in significant debt. And when I say debt, we're looking at over $9,000 in debt. But 50% claim to be Christians. So that means that 23% of Bible believing Christians are dying in poverty. And that's not God's way. But also, at least 30% are in significant debt. Well, if we're in debt, we can't then be generous like we should. We can't impact the world. We
Right.
can't be the beacons of light that we're supposed to be and help others. And so I know that God's wisdom, and there's financial wisdom as well in the Bible. A lot of times we overlook it and we think, oh, it's only about the prosperity message. Well, it's not just that. Prosperity actually means more things when you look it up. In the Greek, it not only talks about wealth, but it also talks about peace. We want to be able to sleep appropriately, right?
Right.
And most of us today are, our anxiety is up, our stress level is up because of the finances. But he says, no, I want to give you that peace. I want you to have a good journey. All of that is encompassed in what we call prosperity. And so when we really take a step back, if my finances are causing me the biggest problem, then let me find the wisdom that I'm supposed to go to tell me what I need to do. And so I've been trying to give people different tips, pretty much every day, to say, hey, try this, try that kind of thing. But when it boils down to it, it's how you handle finances. Now, ideally, if prior to this you got on the bandwagon, you got your goal set, you went ahead and did your budget, you knew what you were doing, you started your savings, then you were in a great position, because I typically tell my clients to have 6 to 9 months of savings of their gross income available. Well, most people nowadays are like, I can't do that if I
Right.
haven't started before. How am I supposed to at this juncture? And so I'm not sleeping well because I'm not sure if my job is going to end tomorrow. If I have two incomes going down to one, what do I do with what I currently have? How can I make it last as long as possible? So then I kind of, in this time period, kind of backed off a little bit and said, look, you might not have your savings, but there's a way that you can get some of that by selling some of the things that you have in your home, coming up with your emergency fund, those type of things, but still managing well what you do have. I tell people all the time, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And you have to be on a plan where you're going to save on a regular basis, what I call an automatic millionaire. Because if you start saving, even on a small salary, if it's automatically going there and you always spend less than you bring in, you're going to be secure. Your financial future is going to be so different than your past, or possibly even your parents.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah,
Right.
that helps.
Right. And that does make a difference. And again, it's like, when people are working on such a tight budget, because it's like every penny is, already accounted for. But I like that little tip that you said, sell the stuff that you have. What is this stuff? Why are you putting it in storage and paying for storage? Why
Yes,
can't you put your car in your garage because it's got all this stuff? Well, so you do a garage sale and it's like, oh yeah, but that's going to take time. Then I got to do this and this. I got to stand out there. What does your finances mean to you? So when you look at that clutter in your life, and that's kind of what I work on, is the clutter, right?
hmm
Which is the emotional background, comes into that. And again, the emotional upset that you have and how you perceive money also
hmm
has an attachment to emotions. But when you have clutter out here, you definitely have clutter in here, right?
exactly.
So if you pick up something and you say, how long ago have I used this? Right?
hmm
If you have not used this in 6 months, why is it there collecting dust? Right?
Exactly.
If you haven't worn that outfit in 6 months, why is it still hanging there? Right? And so you put that out there and you start exchanging the things in the clutter, and everyone's stuff is someone else's treasure.
Exactly.
So why don't you do a justice to them so that they can find their treasure and have your garage sale, right? And start selling it. You don't even have to garage sell now, right? Because you can do it online. They have those. I'm not quite sure what those sites are, but you can go up there. What do you
There's
have for sale? Poof.
You can do Poshmark. You can sell it on Amazon. They've got Spotify. Not Spotify. What's the other one? Poshmark does it.
But I think they have some of those community online garage sale things
They
too.
do.
That you can take a picture, you put it up there, somebody wants it, boom, right?
Exactly. And
And
then it's gone.
and then it's gone. That's right. And once it's gone, that doesn't mean you have to get something else to stick in there.
Exactly.
I think
Put it
that's
in
the
your
hardest
savings
thing.
account or your money market account and start building.
Right.
Exactly.
And that takes
You're
discipline.
gonna make me want to go clean out my closet.
I don't have a closet
So
to
many
clean
people
out.
are
Right.
doing that today. With all of what's going on, with everybody being at home,
Right.
a lot of people are doing those home projects. They're getting those things cleaned up, whether it be your garage or your closet. And
Right.
that's an excellent opportunity to say, okay, well, now I can build up my emergency fund. Now I can build up my savings, and no pressure because it's online. I can mail it to you, or you can do a drive by and pick it up.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
do
I'll sit out there in the corner of the street, right? Yeah, yeah.
Cash App or Venmo or even Zelle where they can already prepay you for it and it's gone.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's so many ways of being creative that people don't realize, right? Because they just don't think about it. But when you can talk about it and you bring it up, it's like, oh, never gave that one a thought, right? So it's about being resourceful and creative, and I think we get in these habits that we
Mhm.
just move through motions in life because it's familiar and it's repetition. We don't have to think about it. Has really kind of put a damper on some of our creativity,
Yes.
right? So what can we do to be creative, especially in these forms, in this time of our life, and what's happening, that what we've been forced into? And if you've lost some of that creativity, it's how do you get that back, right? And so being able to communicate with the people that you're in this little box with now, right,
Mhm.
is going to help open things up. And if you have kids, let them show you how you can dream again and how you can be creative again, right? And start working together and open those lines of communication. Don't let that be an avenue to use it as an excuse that I can't handle it in here. The kids are driving me crazy. Come
Give the
on.
kids to help you. They're great on technology. You
Oh,
know,
yes.
empower them to say, hey, what do you have in your room that we can donate to somebody? And some of that you can just give away so that it is out of your house, it's decluttered. But
Right.
if you're looking to gain additional income, ask them, hey, well, I can't give you your allowance this month. So let's figure out what we can do to sell whatever. And now you got the allowance and you didn't have to, put it out.
Right.
Utility bills are probably going to go up this month, because everybody's at home. But guess what? Your gas went down because you didn't.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
The other day, my sister-in-law called me and she was saying to me, she goes, I've got this extra money in my account and I'm just amazed. I'm not sure where it came from. Whether it's me not using gas, me not putting gas in my son's car. I guess it was the lunches that I was spending at work. And that's what we're starting to see. And that's one reason to be grateful because people have not recognized or put it in that frame of mind to say, I've got extra money.
Right.
I'm
Exactly, because you're not doing those automatic habitual things that we don't think of. And again, how many times when you stop at the gas station, is it just gas you get? Oh, heck no. A candy bar, an ice cream, a bag of chips, whatever, right?
I'll
Something
do
you
that.
really
That could be
don't need, but you do anyway, right? So my daughter-in-law was, when they were early in their marriage, it was like they were struggling. It was like, how come there's not enough money? I said, okay, you want to know where your money goes? This is what
Mhm.
you do. Every single dime that you spend, you write it
Exactly.
down. So every
Yes.
time, you pick the kids up over here and you're driving home, you stop over here at Taco Bell or you stop and get gas, what do you buy the kids? Every single dime you spend on something
Document.
that, and write it down. This is what I did over here. This is what I did over here. And at the end of the month, you start looking at that and you add those things up. Because a dollar here, a dollar there, a couple bucks over here doesn't look like much in the moment.
Hmm.
But when it adds up, it blew her away. She did it more out
Hmm.
of curiosity than anything. But it was such an awakening. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much money I spent on this junk, and I really didn't need it. It's like,
Hmm.
oh wow, So again, I think that's the reality of it because we don't realize that all that little automatic spending for a buck here and a buck there, right? And you look at the upsells, advertising. I mean, these people are smart. You can buy this size a cup for $1.29. However, for 30 cents more, you get this one. And then for 50 cents more, you get this one. What do? More is better?
I think actually I heard that like McDonald's doesn't make any money on their hamburgers. They make money on you buying the combo.
Right.
And so that's where the upsells come. And it's a matter of looking at those systems. And one of the things that I also noticed is that, or that you can do as far as the journaling, because some people say, I don't want to write it down.
Right.
If you just keep your receipts and you staple it at the end of the month, that is a record of how you have wasted money. And you can start looking through it. That might be very easy to do.
Right.
But one of the things that I also recognize too, the new way of doing business, the new business model is to charge you a what they call a nominal fee every single month. And you keep going. And those little dollar amounts add up. For instance, I always tell my clients, I don't pay anyone to keep my money. So when I go to the bank, if the bank's charging me a fee, and usually it's like a $10 fee, I don't use that bank. I don't partner with them because they're taking my money and they're then going to loan it to someone else. And in loaning it to someone else, they're making money off my money. And
Yes.
that dollars doesn't look like much or doesn't sound like much. And most people say, oh, it's nothing big. Well, that $10 is $120 a year. And I always challenge them, what bill could you pay for that with that $120?
Right.
That's a major savings. And so it's just those little things that I noticed because of the engineering side of me, that problem solving that I add with what I do on the biblical side. So I've got both sides of it going together. And it's a systematic approach to say, hey, have you noticed this? Let's get off of this treadmill because that's what they're trying to get you to do.
Right.
Those monthly fees. And you cancel them. If you're not going to the gym, which most people do, cancel it.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's minimal.
It's minimal to you at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Because it's a couple bucks here, it's a couple bucks. That's just $5. But add it up. So if
Add it
you
up.
got $5 going over here, you got 10 going over there, you got 3 going over here, you got 20 going over there. Add that up. Just in
Yeah.
1 month, add all that up. And if you're not using it and it's
Hmm.
not being productive, why are
Hmm.
you spending it?
Right.
Right?
It's all a matter of recalibrating and rethinking what we're doing on a regular basis so that we can then keep more in our pockets and save it,
Right.
or spend it in a different way. If there's something specific that you want to get in the future or some relationship that you need to build up, because I always tell people, from a female perspective, and I'm not sure if your audience is mixed, both male and female, but from a female perspective, we like the relationships typically.
Right.
And we want that bonding. But whether it's male or female, I'm not the big rice and beans, until you get out of debt before you do something, because I figure that you're going to start regretting going to work. We're going to regret what you're doing if there's no enjoyment whatsoever. So I bake that in the financial personalities, you'll see that too. I bake that in to say, no, you've got to enjoy a little bit. So if it's $5 a month or now $6 a month and you go to the movies on a Tuesday, great. Or if you buy a smoothie on a Friday, once a month, that $5, then do that if that's all that you have. but I always say put something in there.
Right.
Otherwise, you know,
Yeah, you
it's
still have to have the fun in it, right? And not denying yourself, because it you start to resent
yes,
when you deny. So don't deny yourself, a little treat now and then, right? And it's the habitual things that create the problem. It's not the occasional, you know,
right.
gratification that you get. So what are the names of those four personalities?
Okay. Now they are based on the engineering side.
Okay.
So they're the steam personality, there's water, there's fire, and there's ice.
Ooh. Well, three of them are
Right.
liquidated, sort of, right? And the fire can liquidate all of them.
All of them. Fire's where we want to go. But I'll start off, if you want me to, I can go through them one by one
Yeah,
and
give
kind
us a quick rundown of each one of those.
of, okay. STEAM, and they all are acronyms actually.
Okay.
STEAM is spend thinking emotionally about memories.
Ooh, could you repeat that?
STEAM is spending thinking emotionally about memories.
Wow.
These are my
Okay.
people that love to give. They're just enamored about, relationship. Everything for them is about relationships. So they like giving gifts. But what typically happens when we're givers and we're giving gifts all the time, we end up overspending because
Yes.
we love to see your face when you've received the best gift from us because we just know you and we're just trying to connect. And so when I look at that, when I go back to the biblical personality side of it, it reminds you of the Good Samaritan. And I know you know that story
Yes.
where, there were two that walked on the other side, but the Good Samaritan took the time because they saw a person that was in need and he wanted to supply that need. And he took him on his own beast. He took him to the innkeeper and he said, hey, he bandaged him up. He used his own money in order to do that. But he said, if there is more that is necessary, when I come back, I'll go ahead and give that to you. Well, that STEAM person says, I want to do for others. And we all should in some way, shape, or form. But what you notice from that is that the Good Samaritan had a business that he was going to. He had a place that he needed to be. So he didn't just throw it all away on this. He said, when I return, I'm going to go ahead and take care of it. So what I tell my STEAM personalities is yes, you have a great heart and you should have a heart for others and want to do. And I understand that that's the way you're built. One takeaway is within your budget, put a dollar amount for your gift giving and only spend that. If within that month, you see something else that you want to do, just do it for the following month. That way you stay within budget and you have some control over your giving. You still can give because that's your personality,
Right.
but you've now put the control or the boundaries in place so that you won't go over budget. You won't be stressed because you overgave.
Well, and as you're saying with that personality, that giving personality, right? It
Mhm.
is you forget to give to the self because you're so busy giving to everybody else, right? And want to take care of everybody else because they're the caretakers, the caregivers as well,
Exactly.
right? That exchange
Exactly.
thing, and so they like how it helps you to feel good, so then they feel good, but at the same time they're running themselves down and they're really doing themselves an injustice, right? And so it's giving from the heart and then really getting serious. I like what you said, where to pinpoint that down is like you set a dollar amount, and then you use the priority of what your gift giving is so that it goes to the person in need the greatest, right?
Mhm.
Instead of just randomly throwing things out there, because sometimes people don't appreciate those gifts, right?
True.
You
Now,
know,
let me say this. This is kind of a funny story. In the STEAM personality, what you're doing really is balancing the emotion with logic. But a
okay,
friend, one of my best friends, we always have this running joke now. We call it March Madness. It seems like in the month of March, everybody comes out of the woodwork and would ask us to borrow money. And it would be some of the craziest stories. And so every year it's like, okay, what's your March Madness this year? It could be anywhere from um, uh, a sister-in-law that happens to come in town that you hadn't heard from in 15 years, and she just picks up the phone and says, "Hey, I'm in town and my car just broke down. Can I borrow $2,000?"
Okay.
And most people go, "What? How could you even form your lips to say something like that?" But it's those type of things that would come up, and the person with such a heart to give, they're going to want to meet everybody's needs.
Right.
But what I figured out is adults will spend money on what they want to spend money on.
Yes.
And there are those that are irresponsible, if you would, that because they know you're responsible and you have it, they're going to ask you for it and then continue to do their irresponsible
Yep.
behavior.
Yep.
So you want to not give to those who are not going to appreciate it, but recognize where you're giving. And if you have something in the back of your mind, in your mindset that says, I have to give in order to be a people pleaser, doesn't work. So
No.
there's a lot of mindset behind it. But I say to you up front, if this is your heart, at least put a boundary on it so that you're not overspending in your budget.
And then
You're
it's
going to have a space for yourself,
right.
but make sure that you don't, overdo it.
And it's less apt that people will take advantage of you at that point because you have put that boundary on there and that limitation, and that also is really helping you become a better you, because
Yeah.
now you're putting, like you say, thought into it, and you're going to be able to give to someone who really appreciates it and not is just taking because you're willing to give, right? Chonta, that was a great little story that you shared, with this steam personality is really pretty awesome. So, what is our next personality?
The next one is the water personality.
Ooh, I'm a water sign. Does that count?
Well, when I tell you, you can decide whether or not that's you.
Okay,
The
that's
water stands for why attend to every report.
ooh. Say
These
that
are my
again. Say that again.
why attend to every report. These are
Oh,
my people who don't want to look at any paperwork. They don't want to pay attention to it. They don't want to do a budget. They just spend. They've got their, they go to swipe their card. They don't know what's in the bank. Or back in the day when we used to really write checks, as long as they had checks in the checkbook, they could write it. They didn't balance the account, you know. And so that's what this person is. And I run into a lot of them that you would be surprised. There's so many more out there. This is kind of related to what we call the prodigal son back in Luke the 15th chapter. Remember, he wanted his inheritance early. Let me
oh,
go
that's right.
it.
Yes.
And he had so much fun and he had friends as long as he had funds. So
Right.
once the finances ran out, he no longer had friends, but he wasn't paying attention to what he was spending. And that's what this personality does. I've had a client, my most recent client, a couple of weeks ago. She's on a fixed income, which is the best place to be in this economy right now and everything that's going on. I told her, I said, you don't realize you're in the best position. And she got this big smile on her face. I said, because you're not worried about whether or not your income is changing. She just retired a couple years ago, but she had a legal issue with her homeowners association because they said she had not paid on a legal problem for the last year. Well, guess what? She didn't have the records. So without the records, and you know that you paid,
Yeah.
you got to pay again. And so it creates a problem. And so that's what this personality is like, is they don't know what they're paying when they're just, throwing it here, robbing Peter to pay Paul, like we used to say,
Yes.
those type of things. But one of the things that I offered her, because I sat down and did a one-on-one intensive with her, is we put all of her accounts with the banking system under the bill pay. So it automatically is going to pay every single month whatever's due. She was also overpaying her utility bill because she just guessed, oh, it's $155, which was, the last one that she had paid. And instead of going through their system and allowing them to take out the exact amount, she just kept paying $155. Well, it turned out she had overpaid them $780.
Oh wow. Free, free,
Right.
free. right, for how many months if she's taking the money off of that? Wow.
Exactly. So we called them, had them refund the money. She already had $300 in her savings. We put that together. That was her immediate $1,000 emergency fund. So she got that taken care of. The other part of that was that she always said to me at the beginning, as we were going through this mindset, she said, I will always be in debt. And I said, who told you that? And then you get to the why of why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is so important. She wanted to not struggle like her parents did, which most of us are like that. But she also saw those who were, it seemed to be in a better financial position, and she wanted to be like they were. And she wanted to be able to leave something for her granddaughter. And I said, okay. So we sat down, and once we set it all up and set up her budget, she had fun in her budget, she had giving in her budget, she had spending in her budget. But we also tackled the debt that she had. She had to pay off that legal fee. She wanted to pay off of her condo association so she could leave it to her granddaughter. And then she had a student loan that she was still paying on. Well, the good news is at the end of that session, and in doing the debt calculation, the reduction calculation, she will be completely debt free in 6 years. She walked out of there grinning ear to ear going, I can't believe this. My condo will be paid off in 2 years. What? This legal battle is going to be paid off in 8 months, but that same amount as you roll it up, if you do the debt snowball. And she was like, I can't believe I'll be completely debt free in 6 years. So, it's possible. But that water personality has to dial it back and recognize they're not paying attention to the reports. They're not doing the budget. So the one takeaway that I have for my water personalities is you got to do the budget, whether it's a spreadsheet or the envelope method where you actually put the dollar amount in an envelope and then you transfer it to the next month, with the miscellaneous ones as well. But I also tell them you have to have an accountability partner, because you're not going to do it. You haven't been doing it. Find somebody that is going to ask you, well, is this in your budget this month? Right. Have you done the budget? Are you you can't pay for this extra right now. Can we delay it to help you make those decisions more appropriately?
And then that becomes that habitual, thing. And it becomes easier. It's simple. These are all simple things. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily easy, right? And it is a step-by-step process, right? And if you miss one of those steps, it's going to bop you right back down to the bottom. So pay attention. And it's being consistent with what you do, and the accountability partner. We all can use an accountability partner no matter what business we're in, no matter what we're doing in our personal life. Having that accountability partner, people that will call you on it. And then it's, now you got to step up to it and bite the bullet and say, okay, I asked for it. All right, you're right. Because sometimes it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be comfortable. But if you want to become that better you, right, then it's time to step up to the plate and make the movements, the activity needed to get there, right?
Yes.
Right?
So now let me ask you, are you still a water personality? Okay.
I see pieces in there, but no.
And actually, that's good that you said that, because there's a little piece of us in all of them.
Exactly.
In all 4 of them. But, your dominant one is the one that I'm trying to get at, to say, do this one thing. In the midst of all of this crisis, do this one thing that will start you on the right path so that you can be that better you.
Right.
Definitely.
Okay.
So you ready to move on to ICE?
I'm ready to move on to ICE.
ICE stands for I Can't Entertain.
Ooh, that sounds like you can't have fun no more.
Exactly. That's those people. They're holding everything in their hands. Their fists are so closed that there's nothing going out. It's the type of person that when someone comes to them and says, well, can you help me out this month? They say, no, it's not in my budget. They don't even look. They don't even look for a wiggle room. They don't even have it already identified that I'm going to do a little bit because I'm so focused on getting my debts taken care of. I want financial freedom. So I've got to pay off my debts and I can't do anything else. They're the ones that are not enjoying anything. It's the I owe, so off to work I go kind of thing. And I am not having any fun. But remember what we said at the beginning. If you don't have a little bit of fun somewhere in your budget or somewhere throughout the month, you're going to start resenting what you're doing. And
Right.
you're going to become this grouch. You're not going to enjoy, and it's going to be even more difficult for you to handle your finances or get your financial house in order because you're just on rice and beans and you're like, I can't do this anymore. At some point, you're going to break, and others are going to feel it. So what I tell this personality, it goes with Luke the 12th chapter, where the guy had these barns and he was just building these bigger barns. And the more he kept coming in, he says, I'm going to build a larger barn this time. And that night, his soul was required of him. And where does it go? Because you weren't thinking of anybody else. You're being very, very selfish in it. So one of my favorite things is I follow Joyce Myers as well. I get to usher at some of her conferences, and she has this one book called Buy the Cookie. No, let me say it right. Eat the cookie, buy the shoes.
Ooh, I like
And
that.
I love it. And it's a matter of celebrating just a little bit,
Just a
no
little bit.
matter where it is. Right. And so, as I talked about before, whether you're going to the movies on the Tuesdays when it's a reduced price, or even a matinee where you're only paying $6, you've at least enjoyed. Or you go get a smoothie, enjoy something. So, what I tell this particular personality is to celebrate with at least a small item, add it to your budget. You have some fun. The young lady that I was referring to, that we just went through all of her accounts, in that she wanted to be able to buy this box. It was like a surprise box. Some companies will have these surprise boxes, and we figured out a way to keep it within her budget. Now we cut out some other things. Then she doesn't get to go buy more clothes or to do all of this. She had a small amount for that, or even for her vacationing, but you figure out what's important for you.
Right.
Whatever that one little item is, make sure you have it in your budget so that you don't become this grouch, that nobody wants to be around.
Exactly.
Do
Exactly.
something for yourself, be a better you. And, in all of it, when we give to others as well, we're becoming better in and of ourselves, because you don't know how
That's
much
right.
you have done for them, whether it's just a smile. It could be a bookmark that you decide to give them. You could make it. You can make a card, anything. Sometimes it's those little things that have completely, significantly changed the lives of others as well. So that helps you too, because you never know. They might return the favor.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And if again, when you find what your priority is, and let's just say you have a priority here, you might take 2 months of savings to get that, but
Exactly.
then it's worth it, right? And you don't overspend the budget because you do a little bit without over here, and it's juggling that, but
Yes.
recognizing, again, it goes back to recognizing there's the problem. Okay,
Yes.
fire.
Okay. So fire is where we all really want to be. FIRE stands for Financially Independent Retiring Early.
Ooh, I like it. Say that one
Yeah.
again.
Financially Independent Retiring Early.
Oh, very, very, very well said. Oh my goodness. That
Yeah. Now, if you notice, my steam and my water personalities would be on the spending side of the equation.
right.
The ice and the fire are on the saving side of the equation. The ice happens to save a little bit too tightly, but the fire person has their budget. They've been saving all along, so they're really secure in that. And they are going to retire early because they become those automatic savers. So they've learned to do all the other three and put it together. They've made sure they have a budget, they have accountability partners. They're giving, but they're giving within reason, and they're making sure that they're taking care of self as well. Because that self says, I've got my retirement. It says that I've taken the time to look at, if I'm working for a company and they're giving me or they're matching funds in my 401k, I've done that, and I've done it consistently, and I've been paying attention that it's going up. I know what I'm doing. But I tell them as well that when you look back, you want to make sure you know exactly what you need for retirement, and not just say, okay, I'm already there. Well, no, you still have a plan. Now this particular personality can go with almost, well, I identify three of them. looking at Genesis, the 30th chapter through the 43rd chapter, talking about Joseph. He knew when to spend. He even gained during famine. And that's where we are right now. We want to make sure
Exactly,
we do that.
exactly. And
There's tons of them. Solomon is another one. And then, of course, the Proverbs 31 woman. She made sure she had land, she had houses, she had clothing for her family. She took care of her family, but she also invested as well. So she knew and she prepared. And so it's more about this person is a preparation type person. They're looking ahead to the future, which is where we need to go. But what I tell them, even in that, is to reevaluate the securities that you do have, determine the total dollar amount that you're going to need for retirement, and set a goal. The goal should be that you only spend in retirement the interest that you make off of your principal. If you never spend the principal, you get that opportunity to leave that as a legacy for your
there you
children
go.
and your children's children down the road. So that would be the goal in mind. So you look and say, okay, well, I'm only getting 4%. Well, what is that 4% going to be? Can I afford to just take that out for RMD or my required minimum distribution? Can I live on that amount? What can I do? But once you get out of debt, you'll be surprised at how little you actually need to live on. You don't have a car payment. You don't have a house payment. All you're really paying for is utilities and your fund. But you got to also add in those grandchildren, because as they start coming along, we start going back to that STEAM personality. So I always
Yes, we
caution them
can.
on
Yes,
that
we
one.
can. Yes, we can. It's that's awesome. Steam, water, ice, and fire. That's pretty amazing, and how you bring that together. And it's so true when we can see little pieces of each of us.
Mhm.
Our own personalities in there, and I can see where basically where you want to reach. So if you are steam or water or ice, what can you do to impact the fire in you to reach that and bring it into that balance? So again, where's your extreme? Bring it into the balance, right? Because it is all about balance. Whether it's finances, whether it's your health, whether it's with relationships, right? Is to really have that balance and that harmony, and it all starts here. It all
Yes.
starts here with the self. That was amazing. I enjoyed that so much, and I'm sure our audience did too. You guys out there, comment below, right? Isn't this fascinating?
Definitely.
This is so fascinating. You know, we're getting short on time here, but I want you to share with people what
Mhm.
your book is all about. You wrote a book, right?
Yes, I actually have a couple that go along with the financial side of it. Financial Wisdom for Financial Freedom is actually the workbook. That's the practical application. And it goes through the budgeting, the goal setting, all of that. And it lines it up so that you can then be in a position to have this secure financial future. That's the practical side of it. The not just paper is the theology and theory side, which helps with your mindset to say, okay, well, God wants me to prosper. Well, why am I not living this abundant life? Why am I not being this beacon of hope? Am I doing something different? I say on the back of that when I say money talks, and it has a lot to say about you. But we want to make sure that it speaks well of you and the God that you serve. So that's how both of those go together. I've been teaching biblical finance now, like I said, for the last 15 years. And we actually use not just paper as the textbook in the classroom. It's available for anyone to purchase because I wanted to make it at a level where you didn't feel like you're overwhelmed with the Greek and the
Right.
Hebrew, that type. But it's written for that level, but it also gives you the money test to go through to say, well, how am I treating others? Am I giving? Or am I hoarding it just for myself? Do I have a thought process where I'm entitled? Everybody's supposed to owe me. And instead recognize that
Right.
I should be grateful, even in the midst of this time and this season. What am I grateful for? God has blessed us each day. We talked about it at the very beginning. We've got great weather. Why are we
Right.
not looking at the sky or looking at the clouds? And Lord, I mean, I could
Did
have a
you see
picnic.
that moon last night?
I didn't see the moon last night.
Oh
I
my
wish
gosh,
I
you got to
did.
make sure you check it tonight. It was a full moon last night. It was
Mhm.
so gorgeous. So make sure you check it tonight because it's still up there full, right? It was
Okay.
so breathtaking. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, we can find those things that we're grateful for in the midst of this storm that we're
Yes.
dealing with. Just like my sister-in-law said, I got more money in my account. Where did it come from? okay, now I can reevaluate, but I have that money. I said, don't spend it, put it in your savings.
You know, and I
That,
think that's probably like your STEAM people, right? Where we
yeah.
get a little jingle in our pocket and we got to go out and spend it right away,
Well,
right?
now at least you can't go out, but you can go on the internet.
That's right. There's always a way for somebody to get that money, right? And there's always a way where we think, how can we spend this? I mean, it's extra. It's free money. Well, it's not really free money. It's giving you an opportunity, like you said, to start looking at your finances and where you're going to go with it, you know, and
It's
to
all
better
got to be intentional in
intentional
our
with.
spending.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You know, and that's also being responsible for who you are because, you know, right now, I mean, if it's just you, that's one thing. But if
Right.
it's if it's because of the family unit and whatever, and if there was that struggle prior to, here's
Mhm.
your opportunity to say, this isn't free money. This is my get out of jail money so that
Yes.
I can start becoming responsible as to where are my priorities to spend the money that I do have,
Yes.
right? And where are my priorities going to be once we move out of this? And I think it's going to give us a whole different perspective on every aspect in our life because
Mhm.
we were forced into a change so fast. We didn't have
Yes.
time to think, right? You know, nobody sent a memo said, "Whoop, hey everybody, guess what's coming down the pipe?" It's like no, it's a boom, you're in lockdown. And you're like, what? What did
Right.
I do?
Right.
Right? You know,
It's
so
yeah.
yeah. So what can we do to make us a better us at this point in our life? You know, and to really start stepping back and looking, you know, at the finances as well as the health and then your relationships because they're all coming to the forefront and being challenged through this for that change, you know, because now you're confined not only in a little space with other people that you're not used to being around there 24/7, you know,
Mhm.
all of these come into play. It's like, okay, I don't have the income coming in, but it's going out, right?
Yeah.
So how do I make the best of it? Okay, I'm around these people that I'm supposed to love because they're my family. How am I how am I going to make this comfortable living, right? And
Mhm.
now I'm here all because they're telling me my health is messed up, right? It's like, oh my gosh. So it's really given us an opportunity to focus on those three main things and how we're going to balance all of them together, right? And
Mhm.
what you shared here today is definitely a good plan to follow in every single one of them. You can take that personality, move it out
Mhm.
of your finances and move it over here into your family life. You can move it over here into your business. You can move it over here into your health because each one of them is different. What is it that you're doing with yourself to make a difference in the world in all of those avenues? And that was a gift that you shared here with the audience today. It has been such an honor having you on the show and
Yeah.
sharing that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shanta. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And even in sharing that, one of the things in the midst of all of this and how you tie it all together to be that better you in both the finances, the relationship, as well as your health, is you start off by being grateful because
Yes.
you still have some funds. Most people do. And in America, we live so much higher than most third world countries. We are not impoverished as it relates to them. And
Right.
so we have to be grateful for what we have. We're cooking more at home, so we're not eating out as much, and hopefully our health is improving. We get that opportunity to be with our family and to have those financial conversations that we kind of put off to the side. And it's
Yes.
like, okay, well, let's look at it. Let's see what we do. Should we do anything different? What's our vision for our family?
Right.
Those type of things. But even in that vision, include financially where we want to be. So it's an opportunity for us to get realigned and take a step back and say, I'm grateful for what I have. This is where I want to go. I'm not there yet. What do I need to do in between in order for me to be that better me, to sharpen the iron, if you would, because iron
Yes.
sharpens iron. Who do I need to bring into my sphere so that I do a better job? And when we do intentionally when we apply what we have been given and what we've learned, if we apply it appropriately, it's going to make a massive difference in our lives.
Yes.
So that's where we are.
That's exactly where we are. And now it's time to get back into that team unit, right? That team. Because a family needs to function as a team. Because the parents don't know what the kids want. The kids don't know what the parents are. All you're hearing is, no, you can't. We don't have money for that. All the, it's like, let's really move into that team spirit here at home. And what can we do to all create the happy outcome that we're all looking? Because what is it? If you don't share with your kids what your big dream is for them, which is for you as well, and hear what they want, that may not be what they want. They maybe want something over here, right? So again, it's that communication. Open up these lines of communication. Really listen. That's why God gave you 2 ears, right?
That's right.
Watch what their body language is telling. That's why you got 2 eyes.
Yes.
Speak wisely, because you only got one little pie hole to bring it out of, right?
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah, so thank you again, Chonta, for being here, and thank you all for joining us today on the show. Comment below. You want her back? Let's get her back. We can talk more about her books and stuff, anything, right? So reach out if you're looking for someone that can help you in those finances. There she is. If you want help in your emotional clearing, give me a call, whatever it is. But stay tuned to make sure that you are doing everything in your power to become that better you. So it's time for you to go out there and be the best you that you can be. Because Chonta and I here, we're going to go out there and be the best we can be, right?
That's right. That's
all right.
Right.
Thank you all again for being here, and we will see you on the other show tomorrow. What?